Morning. Hey everybody. I'm okay, Lizzie. Izzy, how are you? How's everyone doing this fine Friday? Does anyone have any fun plans for the weekend? I kind of want to make myself a special cookie butter latte this morning because what time do you wake up? I woke up an hour early and had to make coffee. I wake up around 6:30 actually. I'm redoing a bathroom in my house this weekend. I don't know about fun. Oh, I mean, that could be fun. Depends on your perspective though, right, I guess? We purchased a crib yesterday, actually, because we're going to be redoing part of our house, obviously to fit a new tiny human. I know it's early, but we didn't buy anything else. We just bought the crib because we wanted to get a feel for, like, logistic spacing, you know? So that's... No, unfortunately, that crib stopped being made, Becca, so we had to get a different one. It really stinks. We were sad. Little bit sad. Yeah, we need to redo the room. So Secret Husband's gonna have some of his friends come over and help move furniture, and then he's gonna put the crib together so we can start to like space things out. Yeah, the crib I wanted was so cute, but it definitely oh, that's funny. We got one that has a changing table attachment on the side that can turn into like a little dresser for her later. Our space is limited, so having them attached is pretty good. We'll see. Hey Anya. Okay, we'll still be there, Becca, don't worry. Go ahead and ask me if I'm starting my morning with a spoonful of cookie butter. The answer is yes. No, it is cookie butter. It is cookie butter. I'm putting a spoonful in my mouth and then a spoonful in the cup. We wanted a princess crib really bad. Yeah, sugar-free cookie butter from Chalk Zero. I have a very small amount, Becky, I'm not gonna lie. It's true sloth. It really does. I did baby laundry yesterday. Oh, you're up. What's going on, babe? You're just up? Oh, I have your coffee. Oh, really? I love the smell. It smells so good to me. Here you go, babe. Yeah, I mean, aversions come out of nowhere, right, Becky? You know? Oh, that makes sense, Amanda. That makes sense. like it a lot. I like it a lot. Good morning, Jack. Trying to stir it into the coffee. It's so good, you guys. If you guys haven't tried the stuff from that brand, I highly recommend it. I wish with every fiber of my being that they would, barely, Jack, barely. I wish that they would sponsor me. I know that that's like a wild thing, but like I would make Chalk Zero themed slimes if they would sponsor me, because I use all their products. I feel like I might be their biggest customer. Just maybe. Who knows, right? You talking to me, honey? I do. The fruit chews that we were eating the other day, those are Chalk Zero. No, I don't eat it throughout the day, but all the stuff that I use that they have, I use their brand. If they make it, I use it pretty much. I use their stuff to make hot chocolate in the winter. I don't know, Priscilla. That's a good question. I've never checked. It's an excellent question, but I do not know the answer. Hey, Naisa. Hey, Jennifer. I'm trying to figure out how to get a side hustle so I can sign up for graphics. Listen, Sophie, I feel that. I've been trying as well. It's harder for me because I have limited time. Well, maybe harder's the wrong word. I don't know what your time is like, but I get it. And they're marshmallows. Yeah. I wish they made creamer because I feel like they'd make better creamer than anyone else, but I brought some of those Chalk Zero marshmallows down to Zoe and Ethan was not a fan, but Zoe is obsessed with them. Time's just different at 3. Yeah, that's totally different. I mean, like, once they go to school, it's a totally different ballgame, right? Because you get so many hours back in the day. But when they're not, like, what can you do? You know what I mean? It's a full-time job. I have the opposite. I have a full-time job and not kids in the house, which will change soon, of course. Soon I will have a little bit of each. Don't talk about going to school. It's making me sick. Oh, no. Just think of all the things I could make. I know. I can make amazing Chalk Zero themed slimes. I did it for Halo Top. Why not Chalk Zero? Why not? A lot of bit of each. Yeah, you're right. You're right. You are right. Let's see how this tastes. Delightful. It's a cookie butter latte. My nerves are out the roof. He graduates from day treatment. Aw. You know what? I think he's gonna do great. All right. Here we go. Let's get settled into our book club spot. I have to change over to our book club book. Boop, 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 boop. Where am I? There we go. Is anyone doing anything fun this weekend besides Cindy, who's redoing her bathroom, and me, who has the hiccups? Oh, we have class on Saturday. That's kind of fun though, right? It's an afternoon class, so that's kind of cool. So the kids can come and stuff. Yummy. Saturday I'm going to trivia night. Oh, is there a theme or is it just general trivia? I love trivia, actually. Big fan. Fall ball starts this weekend. I enjoyed my 3 weeks with no softball. What's the difference between fall ball and softball? At the library tonight with a group of locals. I love that. I'll be watching football this weekend. What's your team, Avery? Yard sales. Listen, we're gonna be scouring Facebook Marketplace coming up soon for stuff. Not this weekend, but I just got my tickets to see. I can't wait to see pictures, Mina. Oh, BTS theme, that's awesome. Ladies, I'm working on the house this weekend. Yeah, I want to go see the new Aliens movie. So I cannot do scary movies in general, but we were joking about it, Secret Husband and I, and then I was like, maybe Aliens is the wrong type of movie for a pregnant person. He was like, yep, you're right, don't see that. I was like, no. We are going to a movie tonight though, just not a scary one, because things clawing their way out of your belly when you're pregnant, that's just nightmare fuel, you know? Sounds awful, truly. I mean, like, it's awful even when you're not pregnant. It sounds awfuler. I know that's not a word. I was making a joke, you know. I feel like sometimes my humor is hit you on the head, and then sometimes people miss my jokes, and I'm like, wait, you thought I was being serious for a second? Oh, I live in the country, so I have to drive 20 minutes to find something. Really? Really? I feel like even when my mom lived in like the middle of nowhere, there were still like yard sales everywhere. We used to go scour them, my friends and I. We used to go up to visit her specifically to scour for cheap stuff for our New York apartments. Because we were poor college kids. We were like, well, we'll just go up to the country where they have real yard sales. Oh, it's just clothes. I see. Well, yeah, that's a bit of a bummer. Yeah, there's been some interesting like kid stuff. I've been looking at the marketplace. It's too early for us right now, but I've been seeing horrific, Jennifer, truly horrific. The only one that I can stand is the one in Spaceballs, because it's like so fake, it's obvious, you know? But yeah, not great. We are going to see It Ends With Us tonight, and I am about one chapter from being done with that book, so I'll be able to finish before we see the movie so I can do a comparison. I am so morbidly curious after everything. I was definitely one of those people who was duped by the marketing because I hadn't read the book. Complicated, Jennifer. I would say complicated is the word I would use for it. So having never read the book and only just seeing the first marketing that they put out and the posters and just the actors, I was one of those people who fell into the thinking it was a rom-com thing. And It Ends With Us, Anya. And then I've seen everything that's been going on, and I was like, whoa, maybe I should read this book before I go see the movie, just to try to be a little bit more knowledgeable. I tried to be. It was very weird, Claire, very strange. Yeah. Well, we're gonna see, right, Amanda? I'll let you know after tonight. Well, I'll tell you tomorrow morning. It is interesting though. Anya, maybe. I would say make it a maybe. Yeah, okay, so you guys are confirming that I'm not an idiot for being tricked by the marketing, right? Like it definitely duped me. I'm not gonna lie. I was like, oh, it'll be so fun for us. You know what I mean? They got me. And now that I've read 90-something% of the book, yeah, I'll be delicate, obviously, Amanda, you know that. But after having read as much as I have of the book, the marketing does seem quite tone deaf. I was like, oh, I mean, yeah. So, yeah, I mean, you can't just put out a movie assuming that the whole world has read the book. We're not talking about Harry Potter here, you know what I mean? And even that, not everyone's read. So I'm just gonna say it's an interesting take. Yeah, Anya, it's difficult. You know what I mean? I think one of the biggest mistakes that both the book and the movie made is that there are no trigger warnings on either. I haven't seen the movie, but I've heard there's no trigger warnings at the beginning, and there's nothing talking about that. And the book did not come with any trigger warnings. So, it's not how it seems, I guess, is what I will say. That's all I'm gonna say about that. I know, Anya, I know, it's so hard. But we'll see. We'll see. All right, so let's read. Yeah, me too, Amanda. Me too. So we are on chapter 7 today. And me too, Jennifer. Wildly curious to see. But like I said, I will be delicate in discussion of it, but I did want to be informed, which is why I just was like, oh, I better get this book right away, kind of thing. It is. Yeah, it is, Naisa. It is a little sketchy and weird. Book club will be hot tomorrow. Yeah. All right, so let's read chapter 7 on the different kind of hot. And we'll see what happens tomorrow. You're not going to do this show, my agent said. Not going to do this show? It's Saved by the Bell. I was now with a big power agency, ICM, which I had been encouraged to move to after I got Living Dolls. Still, I didn't care how big and powerful these guys were. I was just grateful that a popular sitcom was offering me 6 episodes, and I was going to take it. My agent's rationale for turning down the role of Stacy Carosi, who has a romance with Zach, played by Mark Paul Gosselaar, was that since I was coming off a series, it was beneath me to take a reoccurring role on a show. I thought, not having money to pay my rent is beneath me. Yes, not having money to pay your rent is a bigger problem than taking a smaller role. I agree. Actually, I'm with her on this one. The series that I had just come off of in the fall of 1991, The Man in the Family, lasted for only 7 episodes. It left me back where I was before Dolls, auditioning for guest appearances on popular sitcoms. I just wanted to belong somewhere again, on a show that I could call my own. I was exhausted already. I did a pilot. It didn't go any further. I got another series. It got canceled before it airs. Each time I swore I was gonna give up, but then I'd just get back up and keep going. All told, I've been on more than 25 eventually canceled television shows in my career, and I have appeared in more pilots that never made it to air. I don't know if any of you were here. Well, a lot of you were. I know a lot of you were. Remember when we were talking the other day about the percentage of people who actually make it? Like this is great statistics that she's putting out here. She has done all this, and we know who she is, but she's not even one of the most famous. She's like medium fame, right? And still, she had that many failures before getting one that would skyrocket her to financial success, at least, Anyway, never made it to air. While I would never complain, I certainly did feel anxiety. This is not an easy business to be in. It seems like all the actresses in LA were going out for the same roles, and after a few rounds of endless auditions at studios, I was able to identify the girls who were my competition for these coveted spots. I'm so sorry, you guys. I felt like I really have a frog in my throat today. So when I went in to audition for the part of Rhea Perlman's daughter on Cheers and saw one of my regular contenders, I was like, ugh, there's Aniston. Jennifer Aniston and I had become friendly from seeing each other so much at various auditions. She was normal, unlike most other actresses who, if you tried to make small talk, like asking where they were from, would accuse you of trying to psych them out. One girl I tried to shoot the shit with got up and walked out of the room. So when you find someone like Jennifer who isn't douchey, you develop a natural camaraderie. When I saw her in the last round of callbacks for the Cheers audition, I said, fuck, I hope you don't need this one because I really need to pay my rent. Jennifer just smiled and said, well, I hope you get it then. Oh, that's actually really sweet. That's kind of lovely in a lot of ways, right? It's very sweet. It's okay to have friends, you guys. It doesn't all have to be a hard competition. The part of Carla's daughter was kind of a no-brainer for me, but honestly, you never know. So when the casting agent, there we go again with the casting agent, I did, Naisa, oh my gosh, insane. When the casting agent came out and said, Jennifer, I was thinking, you gotta be effing kidding me. But the agent finished the sentence with, thank you so much, but we're gonna go with Leah this time. Hi, Becca. Jennifer couldn't have been sweeter. Congratulations, honey, she said, and I could tell she really meant it. My first day on the set of Cheers, I was totally awestruck because it was such a huge show and it featured a major Emmy Award-winning actors.
While I was watching rehearsal, Ted Danson came and sat next to me. I tried to play it cool, not wanting to bother him. So when he said, "Would you run lines with me?" I assumed that he was speaking to someone else and completely ignored him. Is that too much then? We're reading Troublemaker by Leah Remini. I'm sorry, who were you talking to? I actually didn't know you were talking to me, I stammered. I heard you, I just didn't know you were talking to me. Yes, darling, I'm talking to you. Would you mind? I'm so bad at lines. Yeah, no, of course, I said. We went through his lines, and when he did the scene for real, I felt completely responsible for his success. I was like Ted Danson's acting coach or something. So I'd landed the role of Carla's daughter on Cheers, but of course, as TV history would tell, Jennifer Aniston got hers with Friends. When the show was still being developed, it was called Friends Like Us, and I tried out for the part of Monica. As soon as my agent and I read the script, we knew this was going to be a hit, and it was filming over at Warner Brothers, right across the hall from John Levy's office. If this wasn't meant to be, I didn't know what was. The way it worked back then was that you would go into the studio first to audition, and then if you made it the cut, you would go to the network, and if you didn't make it, you would get the "it's not going any further" line. But if you did go on, it was a long day. It came down to me and this other girl at the network. We became friendly during what seemed like an eternity of them asking us individually to go in and read and then sit outside and then call one of us back in and then out and so on. Eventually, the casting director, oh, see, she says it right there. She says casting director there. Did you guys notice that? She had been saying casting agent for 2 chapters and now all of a sudden she's corrected herself. It's a little weird, right? Eventually, the casting director came out and said, "Thank you so much." Here was the embarrassing part, where one of us would exit a failure. It was hard to walk with your head held high, even when you've been rejected. "You can both leave," the casting director said. We were surprised, but relieved. The girl and I assumed that they were going to tell us who got the part, which was probably for the best, but we walked out of the building and into a completely empty parking lot. It was a Saturday, so no one was at the studio. We chatted on our way to our cars, wishing each other the best of luck, and then we saw Courtney Cox walking toward us, and then right into the building. Mother effer. We both knew right away. She had the part of Monica. I knew Friends was going to be a hit, and this killed me. I cried for days. I swore I would never audition for another show again, ever, because this had been the one that was going to be my ticket. This was going to be tough to get over. In addition to hustling for parts, I had my Scientology work to deal with. I was dedicated as a parishioner, going through auditing and courses, but still, there were always things that were required as a parishioner that I kind of felt uncomfortable with, like the drills that we had to do on certain courses. One was to spot different levels on the tone scale. You had to stop a complete stranger on Hollywood Boulevard, get them to answer questions, and then assess their tone. 2.5 for boredom, a 0.07 for hopeless. As a part of being on course on the tone scale, we were sent out with a clipboard and required to pretend that we needed people to answer questions for a survey being conducted by the Hubbard such and such Research Center. Nope. But it was all just a ruse for us to practice assessing different tone levels. The surveys weren't real, and most people were like, "F you, I know who you are and what you're doing." I took a shortcut to try to get out of doing the drill. "I'm an actress. I can't be out here. Someone might recognize me from my not-so-popular and canceled series," I protested. "John Travolta did it," the supervisor said, "so you're going to do it." I was pretty much always on course, a minimum of 2.5 hours a day at the Celebrity Center on Franklin Avenue, which was the building reserved for people in the arts or associate services. After I became a working actress, I always went in through the main entrance, but there was a specific one that led to the president's office, a private area reserved for exclusive celebrities like John Travolta, Tom Cruise, Kirstie Alley, and other VIPs. I didn't get that role on Friends, so I wasn't there yet. In the theory room, in the theory room of the course room, you could see why I would stumble over a sentence like that. In the theory room of the course room, which is just for reading, I would sit as still as a statue, because a supervisor was always walking around looking for manifestations of study problems. If someone scratched his head, the supervisor would come over and ask, "What word don't you understand here?" I always tried my best not to blink or even breathe. If you yawned, you were pretty much dead in the water. "Get your course pack and come into the practice room for a checkout on your materials," the supervisor would command. Being checked out sent me directly back to elementary school, where teachers seemed to take sadistic pleasure in pointing out a kid's gap in understanding in front of everyone in the class. In quizzing me, the supervisor asked for definitions of words in the course pack, and then examples of how to use those words in a sentence. Sometimes starting at the top of the page, which read, "Sussex, England." And if you didn't know where that was, you would have to reread the whole thing again. Sussex was where L. Ron Hubbard had once had a home and is now a highly coveted Church of Scientology called St. Hill Manor. They went back as much as 10 pages in the course to find something that I had forgotten. It could be the third point in 10 points of keeping Scientology working, or reciting verbatim all the 12 antisocial personality attributes, and then I would have to go all the way back in my coursework to that point. It was frustrating, but the objective was to get the correct data and technology per HCOB, Hubbard Communications Office Bulletin, and that meant doing it exactly right, and I mean exactly. This sounds a lot like religious school, where we literally had to recite verses word for word or not get recess. Like if you messed up, they'd be like, "Nope, go study for a minute and come back." Okay, I would just like to go run around the playground for a bit because I'm 10. I don't know. Being on course was time consuming, but when a parishioner was getting audited, there was no time limit. An auditing session could be 20 minutes or 20 hours. As determined by L. Ron Hubbard's policy, you were expected to do 12 and a half hours a week of auditing or study. If you were not a good student before Scientology, you certainly would become one, or take the entire recess to study. Yeah, I'm so glad I only did first and second grade. Yeah, it was a little, the school that I went to for first grade and second grade was much less strict than the ones I went to later. They got progressively stricter and a little bit more as we went along. Auditing is about rooting out a hidden pain, stress, or anxiety with the use of an e-meter and then getting rid of it. The e-meter, short for electropsychometer, is an electronic instrument that measures the mental state and change in state of individual, according to the church. During the process, the pre-clear, or the PC, person getting audited, is asked a set of questions or given directions as he holds onto 2 empty cans hooked up to the meter. It is believed that the thoughts in the person's mind affect the flow of energy between the cans and cause the needle on the dial to move. Sure, Jan. When you're being interviewed by the auditor, there is a mental image picture. This is a Scientology term for something that you can see in your mind, most often demonstrated by asking someone to close their eyes and think of a cat, and then describe what it looks like. These mental image pictures include emotion, pain, or stress, which changes the flow of the current and moves the needle. Sure. The auditor's job is to keep the session focused by using the meter and observing the reactions on the needle. There are 28 needle characteristics that auditors have to know verbatim. A little shaky movement on the dial means that you're having a bad thought about the thing that you're talking about, or about something that you're not telling the auditor. And if the needle falls to the right, well, it tells the auditor to pursue what the PC is thinking about or talking about. That's one of the hardest parts about being in session. There might be something that you really want to get off your chest, or maybe to understand better, like a fight with a boyfriend, problems with your mother, an issue with a colleague at work. But if the needle doesn't move when you talk about that particular subject, you have to move on. In Scientology, you further discuss only what is reading on the meter. This can and string meter, of course, because that's super duper scientific and definitely legit. I'm gonna build one. All hail the can meter. Yes, Sophie, indeed, we hail it. If you can just replace a couple of those letters, it could quickly become hate. Auditing can also be a form of self-editing when it comes to criticizing others. The theory in Scientology is that if you are critical of someone, you have similar transgressions of your own. Now, that is actually something that I generally kind of do believe. Closeted Republicans. Sorry, what? Oh my God, that was a weird cough. For example, if you were to say, oh my gosh, I can't say this out loud on here. My boyfriend, ouch, ouch me, that would be seen as saying something critical to the auditor. He would then turn around and say, I got that, but have you done something similar to him or others? Oh, no, never mind. I don't agree with this. The word critical in Scientology is very different. Yeah, I realize that now. I was using the real definition of critical. My bad. Hubbard defined critical thought as oh boy, here we go. A symptom of an overt act of having been committed, or withhold from an auditor. What Hubbard meant is that critical thought is a bad thing. It indicates a criminal act. Overt acts and withholds are the equivalent of crimes against life and freedom in Scientology. The new definition thus makes it a crime for members to think critically, particularly about Scientology. Any critical thought by Scientologist is immediately suspect. This redefinition makes criticizing anything about Scientology extremely difficult for members, as it is reflected back on them as something they did wrong. Hubbard's message is clear. Critical thought is not the sort of thing any good, excuse me for the hiccups, Scientologists should be engaged in. As a result, you start to edit what's happened to you in your mind, and thus you can fail to address what's actually bothering you because you know that it would all end up coming back to what you did to provoke the situation. Sounds like victim blaming. There are also other problems that can get in the way of covering those items that might be bothering you in your life. Scientology auditing follows a precise series of steps. Each addresses one or more condition that everyone supposedly needs to overcome, and thus your auditor directs your problems as required for you to move up the bridge. For example, the steps on the bridge predetermine what will be addressed next. The auditor would say, I'm looking at an earlier interview and auditing, and I found that you have a problem with communication in your life. Your auditor then proceeds to ask, from where could you talk to your mother? From where could you talk to your mother? Huh? What does that even mean? From where could you talk to your mother? That's literally what it says. I'm not misreading it. I don't even understand what that sentence means. From the phone? In person? I don't know. You give various answers, but the auditor continues to come back again and again looking for more answers. You grow frustrated and exhausted as the auditor comes back to you with the same questions dozens of times, trying to unblock you. And then you surrender. You have the realization that gets required reaction on the e-meter that signifies the step is complete with a floating needle. You finally say, I can communicate with my mother from anywhere. Okay. In the end, the ability gained is that you can communicate with anyone on any subject. Through auditing, it's been proven unequivocally that you indeed did have this problem, but you were just not aware of it. And now that it's been proven that you did indeed have a problem with communication, the problem has now been eliminated. At the end of every session, once the needle has floated, the auditor says, thank you very much, your needle is floating, and we're going to end the session now. You now leave, feeling that you've accomplished something you didn't even know was there, and now you're clear of it. But the mind F lies in the fact that they assigned you the problem and not the other way around. And afterwards, if you realize that you still have a problem with communicating with your mother, you're taught that that person is a wog or down tone. Being down tone means existing in a lower level of Scientology on the tone scale, which is a listing of the various emotional states that you can be in. The higher you are on the tone scale, the happier and healthier you are. So if you're down tone, it means you're unhappy and unhealthy and potentially dragging down higher tone people with you. The process could produce great sense of cathartic relief. Here was a problem I wasn't even aware of that I may have created for myself, and after very much back and forth, I was able to overcome the problem. So while in session, I would feel euphoria of self-discovery and growth. Back in the real world, I was still angry, depressed, and judgmental. Looking at my diaries from that period, journaling was frowned upon by the church, but I did it anyway. I would note that I still wanted more in my life and my family's life. My Scientology realizations were great in church building, but I would start cursing when I couldn't find my car in a parking lot or when I had no money left in my bank account. It just wasn't there for me in real life situations. This sense of accomplishment of having solved problems, it really only existed when I was in the presence of other Scientologists who completely bought into it. What I didn't realize at the time was that all the understanding I gained through auditing only related back to my life in the church and helped me be a Scientologist. My gains in Scientology were not relating to the real world. I was so entrenched in the church that it had become my everything, and I couldn't question that. When it came to men, I never really dated Scientologists, even though I was encouraged to do so. I was embarrassed by a lot of people in the church who didn't pay attention to practical things like how they looked and who talked in a language that was strange to the outside world. Just like I wanted normal mom as a kid, I now wanted a normal boyfriend. Dating outside the church also probably meant that there was a part of me that subconsciously was trying to keep something for myself that wasn't connected to Scientology. I know, right? Isn't that funny, Naisa? She was definitely like, it's wild. Most of my family was in the church, and so were most of my friends, and I spent much of my free time on course or being audited. My romantic life gave me that tiny bit of freedom away from the weight of saving the planet. My fantasy was that I'd meet a regular, cool, normal guy who wasn't a Scientologist, but maybe was open to it. Hopefully, effed up enough to be desperate to need it. Looking back now, I'm sure that the way my father acted and the way I perceived him ultimately informed the way I looked at men, both when I was growing up and as an adult. I interpreted his yelling and his dominance as strength, and I ultimately adopted the same behavior and took it on as a part of my own persona. I believed that this was the way that a man was supposed to be, and this was how a woman felt being charmed by him. He yells, she cowers. To me, this all made sense, except that in my relationships, I was usually the one doing the yelling. I treated men badly and didn't have much respect for them. I had a list of very specific things that could get a man written off my list pretty fast. For example, men who wore sandals. Shallow, I know. Okay, that's not what I was expecting for you to chalk people off your list. I'm okay with sandals. That doesn't bother me. There's so many, I have way bigger fish to fry than sandals. We also live near the beach, so I guess I'm a little biased. Always a keen observer since childhood, I kept a mental list of what I thought a man was. No, Claire? Oh, well. Men say horrific and hurtful things to their wives and daughters, and are forgiven. Men are strong and women are weaker, or men appear strong but they are weak. Men are charming. Men wear cologne. Men get manicures. Men have clean cars. Men cheat. Men don't care about their family. Men go on and start new families. Men hurt women. Men do not value anything. Men break their word and women forgive them. Men appear to be the dominant species. Men win. From the age of 18 through 25, I went through a very promiscuous period, going out with all kinds of guys, from gorgeous soap actors to athletic beach bums who didn't wear sandals? I don't believe such a thing exists. I don't believe in that. But I was never really attached to anyone particular. It was mainly beep boop without any real connection. Now, look, I don't want to give you the idea that I would just sleep with anyone. I wasn't picking up random men and bringing them home. I just wasn't faithful. And beep boop was a substitute for being real and there in the relationship. I would do things that men would normally do to women to get back at them, but I was only hurting myself. If I had beep boop with a guy, afterward I would say something like, hey, listen, I got a really early morning, so you gotta go. You can't stay here. Or, I gotta go now. I haven't been home all day, and my dog, he's gotta be let out. I didn't have a dog. I would say this to a guy before he could say it to me, and if I spent the night or committed to them, it would have made me vulnerable. I was convinced that they would eventually either cheat or leave me anyway, so why even open myself up to another man breaking my heart? My mom always wanted me to be with someone in the church because she thought it would help me with my problem with men and intimacy in general. I don't know, Ma. I just don't respect men, I confessed to her. I have bad intentions toward them. Obviously, it comes from Dad and Dennis. I want to break their hearts like mine's been broken. Having been let down by many men in my life, I never want to let them get the upper hand. Even if I feel something for them, I got to tell them to get the hell out. But like any good Scientologist, my mom offered answers that led directly back to the church. You'll handle that in session, she said, and that was it. She didn't judge me, and for that, she is always the person I go to then and now. She did subscribe to the idea that anything bad I was doing wasn't really the doing of her daughter, but instead it was my reactive mind, which was on the road to dealing with and getting rid of the issue. The main thing was that I would stay on course and move up the bridge. And if I did that, everything else would sort itself out. All of my non-Scientology boyfriends would tell me I was effed up and that clearly Scientology was not working for me because I kept on cheating or leaving. But this made me go in search of someone even more effed up than I was, someone that I could fix to avoid fixing myself. In 1996, the universe provided me with Angelo Pagan, a man with a history of cheating and 3 kids. Perfect. Now, I will preface this by saying this is not a love story. I mean, it's a story about love, just not the kind that you're going to hope to tell your kids one day. It all began with a WB sitcom I was on First Time Out, which naturally was soon canceled. The show's star, Jackie Guerra, who would become a good friend, invited me to go out to a Cuban nightclub to celebrate us getting canceled. I wasn't exactly feeling in a celebratory mood, just being unemployed again. But when I heard that Scott Baio, who had directed the last episode of our show, was going to be there, I quickly said yes. Maybe I'd marry Scott. He might take this and make it better. There was no doubt about it. I wanted Charles in charge of me, and Chachi loves Leah. Sounded kind of nice too. Now that he was no longer my director in a professional relationship, maybe there could be something there. As soon as I walked into the Cuban club El Floridita, I fell in love with the place. It was the tiniest nightclub I've ever been to in my life. A small parquet dance floor surrounded by tables and drop ceiling, red walls, and strung up Christmas lights were the sum total of El Floridita's decor. After Jackie, Scott, and I had dinner, the band started playing salsa music, and soon after that, this guy walks in. He's got thick black hair, caramel skin, and huge dimples. He went right up to the microphone and just starts singing without even doing any kind of warm-up. I was intrigued by this Cuban Frank Sinatra, but by now the club had become really crowded, and the dance floor was packed with people dancing salsa. So we decided to leave because I'm not good with inhaling other people's sweat. That's why I don't do things like yoga. My fascination with Scott Baio had waned in the hours that we were there because he was wearing high-top Reeboks. I told you, I'm very judgmental. Okay, not that I think she should be with Scott Baio because we all know there are issues with him, but I don't think the Reeboks are the issue. I mean, like, there's got to be something else we can point to, right? I don't know. I guess I just don't pay enough attention to shoes, you guys. Although, we were getting in the elevator the other day and one of our neighbors complimented Secret Husband's shoes, so apparently he has nice shoes. I wouldn't have known, but the neighbor knew. The next day, I was still thinking about the singer. I called the club and found that he performed every Wednesday night, and then told Jackie that we were going back to El Floridita. The following Wednesday, we got a table on the floor right by the band and sat down when Jackie spotted someone at the bar. Isn't that Carlos? He was on our show. He had a few lines, right? I don't want him over here, Jackie. I didn't want to be sitting with some other guy when the Cuban Frank Sinatra walked in. Why are you such a bee? What kind of guy comes to a club by himself? Jackie just rolled her eyes and got up to talk to Carlos. Meanwhile, Cuban Frank Sinatra walked in and started to sing, so I put my purse in the empty chair next to me because I did not want Carlos, Mr. Few Lines, sitting with us. Jackie brought him back over anyway. I turned my back to him completely as if I were totally absorbed by the band. That is until I heard him tell Jackie, my friend Angelo's the lead singer here. I came to see him. And now, with that, I turned around and said, Jesus, Carlos, how rude of me to turn my back on you. Eat something with us. And I removed my purse from the empty seat. Jackie, how rude of you. Carlos, have some plantanos. Sounds way funnier in that accent. Sure enough, when the band took a break, Angelo came right over to say hello to Carlos, who introduced him to Jackie and me. Do you dance? He asked me. With you? Yes, but I don't know how to dance salsa. I'll teach you. On the dance floor, Angelo is going 1, 2, 3, and I'm doing the check. Smells good? Check. Dimples? Check. Good teeth? Check. Although the bottom row was a little left up, but I found it pretty sexy. Strong arms? Check. And then the last item on the checklist, shoes and socks. I was petrified as soon as I looked down, because if you have white socks on, you are dead to me. Dead to me. There's no fixing you. You're beyond help. And as a person, there are certain things that you should know. And one of them is black pants, black socks, black shoes. Please, God, please. And he had on black socks and good black shoes. Check. With Angelo, it was instant magic, like what the movies are made of, songs are written about. But sure, this magic was real. I had to test it out. With my checklist complete, I decided to break rule number 1 of dating, and I asked him, so, hey, when are we getting married? Ha ha ha, he laughed. Ha ha ha, I mimicked him. It's gonna happen, Angelo. I know you're uncomfortable in this moment because you probably think you're just gonna get laid. And sure, that is gonna happen right away. But here's what I'm saying to you. We're gonna get married at some point. That's funny. I mean, I'm kind of already married. Suddenly, the rom-com movie I was in came to a screeching halt. What do you mean you're kinda already married? I asked. What it meant, according to Angelo, and which I believed, was that he and his wife were legally married but separated. I said, why are you married already? And he said, well, where have you been? I've been here waiting for you. Magic. I am a sucker for cologne and a good line. Yeah, what time do you get off work? I asked. I was head over heels for Angelo with the dimples in a way that I had never felt. I wanted to be with him as much as possible, but it seemed that he could never sleep over. There was always a reason, an early work shift, or he needed to take his young son to school. And if I had used an ounce of the life smarts that I usually pride myself on, I would have known why Angelo could never stay the night and why we rarely met late at night. When I look back on it, it's clear that I just didn't want to know. After I'd given Angelo a lecture about going after his dreams, he was selling electronics during the day and singing at night, which left no time for him to pursue his dream of being an actor. He came to me and confessed the truth. I have to tell you something. He said to me one night, I'm really starting to like you and I'm starting to feel bad about the person that I'm being. I'm not separated. I'm a cheater. And I'm not just with you. I've been a cheater my whole life. This is so effed up. This guy is so effed up. He's perfect for me. I admired Angelo's honesty and candor, and I think it made me fall even more in love with him. I didn't want to give him up. So even though Scientology hadn't helped me with my infidelities, I decided the church was somehow going to fix his. Yeah, listen, I need you to go to this place and it'll help you make some changes in your life. Angelo did do a small intro course called Personal Values and Integrity, which was about exactly what the title said. It discussed morality in very simple ways, stressing the importance of the participants confessing to any and all transgressions with exercises such as writing an essay on the topic, When Have You Been Dishonest? God bless him, Angelo threw himself into the course and began to tell me about every woman he had ever been with in the recent past. And there were a lot. Girls in the club, dancers he knew from back in San Francisco, an entire bridal party. The more truths he told me, the more he wanted to tell. And while most people might hear about these transgressions and be devastated, I had learned from Scientology that this behavior was not representative of the real person Angelo was. He just hadn't been cleared yet. All of this was in his reactive mind. A person could admit to the most heinous things and feel no remorse, but learning to admit to feeling guilt and take responsibility was a whole nother thing, which Angelo was now doing. We were taught to respect the person who has the balls to do that and admire him for it. Admitting that you've done something wrong is the first step towards salvation as defined by Scientology. Well, according to LRH, each of us has something like 800 million overts, meaning transgressions, that you're never going to get them all out in one lifetime. But being aware that you have them and need to work on them, well, that makes all the difference. Angelo's history with women was that what the church calls an ethical blind spot. Every man he knew growing up, including his father, had cheated. It was just accepted. It wasn't okay to leave your wife for your girlfriend, so for Angelo to finally admit to himself that he was in fact a cheater was a huge first step for him. And the fact that he was willing to do something about it was even more impressive to me as a Scientologist. This was someone who could confront things and make real change. Angelo felt like the perfect mix of what I had been waiting for, a normal guy who was not a Scientologist, but someone who could quickly get with the program and get with Scientology. My mom had a completely different take on the situation. This guy isn't even actually divorced, she said. He isn't even actually separated. Maybe it was the echo of her own situation with my dad and Dennis, who had both left her for other women, or that she wanted more for her daughter than being the other woman. But she showed a hardness with me that I had never seen in her before. For the first time, my mother, who had supported me through many other things that other mothers wouldn't have, expressed utter disgust towards me. I don't even know you, she said. I did not raise this person. My mother's reaction brought me back to my senses. Angelo was married, with 3 kids. I was so focused on his ethical blind spot that I had completely ignored my own. Suddenly I asked myself, what are you doing? And the answer was horrible. I was destroying a marriage. Hold on. He's destroying a marriage. Let's get that straight for a second. It's his marriage. Anyway. Which opened up a new blind spot. I had no respect for marriage. What did that mean? Clearly it meant nothing when it came to my dad or my stepdad Dennis, and just as clearly I had no respect for the family either. I went to the only place... Sorry, it accidentally turned the page. Wait, where? No, I don't want a dictionary. Stop. Oh my gosh, sorry. It went to a dictionary and I didn't need a dictionary because I know what place means. I went to the only place that I had to work out my crisis of conscience. The church, of course. I eventually and begrudgingly told them that I was having an affair with a married man who had a son with his current wife. I was told that I needed to make up the damage, and it was determined that the way for me to do that was to pay for Angelo and his wife to go to marriage counseling as offered by the church. Scientology couples counseling is vastly different from typical couples counseling. The church teaches that marriage can't survive if one partner is has any unknown transgressions against the other person. You need to reveal in excruciatingly specific detail what it is that you've done wrong. Scientology doesn't factor in how much this kind of truth can break a husband or wife's heart. Unlike other religions where one can relieve guilt by talking to a member of clergy, Scientology forces its parishioners to confront their partners face to face, admit their transgressions, no matter the consequences. So I did it. I told Angelo that he needed to give his marriage a chance, and the only way that he was going to do it was through counseling, which I would pay for because of what I had done by sleeping with him. Although he was just as sad about leaving me as I was about leaving him, he realized the impact the values course had had on him and knew for the good of his family he really should give this counseling a try. I felt no relief for making up the damage. Instead, I got to watch Angelo and his wife walk by me at the Celebrity Center, where they were now going to counseling, holding hands like newlyweds. My church was telling me, do not contact Angelo. And again, I was back in auditing and ethics to deal with my hidden evil intentions towards men, which clearly had not changed. The church took little pity on me. On top of paying roughly $5,000 for counseling for Angelo and his wife in the church, I now needed to meet with his wife in person and apologize for what I had done. I was beyond humiliated, but I also felt like I deserved everything I was getting. I met Angelo's wife at a coffee shop and stumbled through my words. Yeah, listen, I don't have the answers. I can't justify what I've done, I said, unable to apologize, not because I wasn't sorry, but because an apology really felt weird here. I'm sorry weren't the right words, and an apology wasn't going to do anything. His wife, however, had no problem expressing herself, and I sat there and took the punches. I was dying of a broken heart, but Angelo never felt better in his life. After I met with his wife, he called me on the phone to thank me for what I had done for him. This is a whole new way of life for me, he said. I never thought I could be honest like this. I mean, to look at my wife and tell her I've cheated and have her still hold my hand. My God, Leah, thank you. F you. F you. F you, F her. Fucking hell. You're welcome, I said, barely able to get the words out, and pulled the receiver away from my mouth so he couldn't hear me crying. Yeah, I hope you have a happy life with your wife and your son, and I'm sorry for what I've done to you all. I hope you can repair it. From that call on, I plunged into a well of despair, confusion, and self-doubt. Did I do the wrong thing by doing the right thing? Is that what this love story is supposed to end at? I guess it wasn't a good love story after all. In the end, though, I understood what had happened through the lens of Scientology. The purpose of my meeting Angelo was to do penance for my years as a cheater. The pain that I was feeling was my punishment, and I deserved it. I was told by the church that I must no longer talk to Angelo, so I didn't. And he didn't call me. I was still feeling pretty low several months later when Angelo did call me out of the blue. I was shocked that he reached out to me. I didn't want to hear that he was happy. I was steeling myself for it, though. He told me he had some things he wanted to talk about, so we agreed to meet at a restaurant. After we sat down, Angelo told me about what had been going through since the last time we'd seen each other. The couples counseling had been really therapeutic for him because, as he had said before, it was the first time in his life that he was truly honest with a woman. But an unintended consequence of no longer being burdened by his own guilt was that he began to realize that his wife had her own set of issues and her own skewed set of values, telling Angelo that he could still have a girlfriend, but he didn't need to leave her and his family to do that. He just needed to come home. But Angelo didn't want to be that guy. He wanted to be better. He was realizing that his own core values were changing as a result of his time spent in the church. But his wife's were not. Previously, he'd overlooked anything she did because of his own bad behavior. He'd been trying to make it work, but it felt like he was back to living a lie. He already had told his wife that he was leaving. "So it's either with you or somebody else," he said, "but I want to be happy." And I wanted it to be with me. Well, that was a doozy. That was a doozy. She just got herself in some real hot water. Okay. I mean, me either, Nisa, obviously. You could see the shock written all over my face. Well, that was that. You know, we all go through things. I love that Leah's mother goes, I mean, listen, I only have so many voices to offer you, Liz. We have to recycle them sometimes. All New York, New Jersey accents are the same for me. That's all I got. Listen, you get what you get and you don't get upset. It's true, Becca. It's true. Yeah. I give you my best as far as voices are concerned, but I am not a professional, so this is all we got. Oh my gosh, your power went out, Rosie? That's not good. Is it from all the earthquakes we've been happening? Because they've been plentiful. We had so many earthquakes this month compared to like normal. It's weird. All right, well. Transformable. Oh, started a fire. That's not good. That sounds bad. Yikes. All right, I will probably be on later. I'm trying to work out what I want to make the sparkle pop for this restock, but I'm thinking about making it a white glue sparkle pop to like switch it up a little. Kind of could be fun, right? I don't think we've ever done that before, but it could be cool. A white glue sparkle pop? Kind of fun, right? Yeah, but I need it to be in theme, and I haven't found anything that I really love. I have done a white glue sparkle pop. Oh, when? When did I do that? I don't even remember. Shows what I know. Oh, I just mean like as a batch. I haven't done that. Yeah. I think I have done an individual. You're right. But it'd be cool to have as a batch. I'm just trying to think, of what I want it to be themed as. I don't know yet. We'll figure it out, but I'll probably be on later to make that. I will see you all later, and then again tomorrow morning for book club and all that jazz. It probably isn't gonna be bomb pop because I don't have the right scent for that, and we already have a couple of those things, but we'll see what colors I can figure out. All right, I'll see you all later. Have a great day until then.